your hand on your heart, look up at the sky, smile, and say, hey, I'm alive. Thanks for being alive with me today.
Hey, and happy today, y'all. Welcome to Be Alive with Kate Manser. I have a fun story episode for you today. I have a long list of great stories that I want to tell you over the course of many episodes, but the ones that I wanted to share with you today are the weird and cool and insightful experiences that I had when I was in the end stages of publishing my book, You Might Die Tomorrow. And one of the things you have to do is you have to any quotes that you use in your book, you have to get approval to actually publish those, right? Otherwise, you're in a copyright infringement violation thing, and nobody wants that. So I had all these great quotes that I had wanted to use from other writers, poets, musicians, and so on. And push came to shove, and it's time to actually reach out to those people and their teams to find out if I can actually get permission to use them, or I have to cut them out from my book, which would be a bummer because I was not only excited to use them, but in some places I had like whole chapters based on certain quotes and things. Okay, it's do or die moment. We're in like 2018, 2019, because my book was published in March of 2020, which PS, super weird time to publish a book. I'm going to tell you a quick aside about that story first, which is that March 8th, 2020 was the day of my book launch party in Austin. South by Southwest had just been canceled, which was like this huge deal. And little did we know that like the next day, the entire world or most of the world was going to be shut down in lockdown. My book launch party was like one of the last social things that anyone who had attended did, which was really weird. But my main lesson that I want to share with you from that has huge implications for what we're going through right now is this. I had hired a publicist for my book launch, right? I had put all this work into my book and I wanted it to be the biggest, best launch that it could be. So I found this really cool New York publicist and paid her thousands of dollars to do outreach for my book. And she did a lot of great stuff for me. She got me on a ton of local and national radio shows. And probably the coolest thing that she did was she got me a spot on the Today Show. The moment I'll never forget when I was in the post office sending my book to 30 Rock was such a big moment in my life. I thought it was so cool. And they actually wrote back to my publicist and said, actually, we would love to have her. We are just about to do a segment about people who have quit corporate to pursue their dreams. And your client, Kate Manser, with her new book coming out, would be absolutely perfect. So we were in the end stages of getting me on the Today Show for this segment when COVID hit. Oh my God. And everything crumbled. My publicist was based in New York. Things were like so crazy there. She just like kind of lost it. And I also crumbled like a lily on the 4th of July in hot weather. And that is my biggest regret and the lesson that I want to share with you today, which is if you feel like you are a person who has a message that can uplift people and improve their lives, do not look for reasons in the external, circumstantial, situational world as to why you should shut up, sit down, and keep your mouth shut. When COVID hit, I was like, oh my God, COVID is hitting. I wrote a book about mortality. It's way too touchy of a subject. I'm just going to like let this Today Show thing go. I'm not going to talk about my message on social media as much anymore. And like I said, I just crumbled and I became one of those people that was like constantly refreshing Twitter, reading the news about all the things that were going on about COVID. And that is my huge regret. And that is not what I am going to repeat right now, because right now in 2025, we are in a moment when people might not want to hear about living alive. People might not want to hear about mortality. People might not want to hear about how to rise above and make use of purpose and meaning in the adversity and challenges of our time. They would rather live in fear. Well, I am not going to shut up this time. I am not going to fold like a lily on the 4th of July. I am going to be speaking about living your best life and feeling more alive and talking about mortality and how to find purpose and meaning in adversity and challenge now more than ever. I'm not going to repeat the mistake that I did in 2020. Millionaires and careers and concepts are made in times of chaos, and it's the ones who have the resilience and the dedication to stand up and speak despite the craziness that's going on are the ones who will win in the end and the ones who will make the biggest impact on the world around us. So don't shut up. Don't be quiet just because you think people don't want to hear what you have to say. If you truly in your bones think it's important, you got to stand up regardless of what's going on in the world and be a leader and believe in your message so that other people have the chance to benefit from it. Okay, so let's go back. The year is 2018, 2019. I am doing this outreach to be able to use some of my most favorite quotes in my book. The first story that I want to tell you is I had the quote in my book from Stephen King: "Get busy living or get busy dying." That quote is said in the movie Shawshank Redemption by Morgan Freeman and is originally in the book by Stephen King. So I'm like, okay, I got to reach out to Stephen King and see if I can use this quote in the book. So what do? I mean, if you are being published by a major publisher, they will often do these quote verifications for you. They'll reach out to the people and the publishers and the teams and get the approvals to use the quote. I was doing this myself. I created my own publishing company. So I need to go into the deep, dark interwebs and find out how I can reach out to Stephen King to get his approval to use his quote in my book. Well, I reached out to him, and 1 week after I reached out to Stephen King, I get an email back. And that email back says, this is from his assistant: "Stephen is agreeable to your using his quote as described. Get busy living or get busy dying." He did add that the quote is actually a version of Bob Dylan's "He not busy being born is busy dying." So I just thought that was so cool. First, I was shocked that I got that email back and that Stephen had added the context on the quote for me, which he absolutely didn't have to do. I got to now share with you and know for myself that that quote is actually inspired by Bob Dylan. All of art is theft. All of art is inspired by other art and other aspects of reality. And now we know that Stephen King's quote, "Get busy living or get busy dying," made famous in the movie Shawshank Redemption, was actually inspired by none other than Mr. Bob Dylan in his song. Another quote that I have just always loved since I was a young girl, truly, comes from the book and the later made film, Girl Interrupted. Oh man, since I can't remember if I read the book first or watched the movie first because they're both so special to me. But the book is Girl Interrupted by author Susanna Kaysen. It's an autobiographical book and film. Susanna writes about her personal experience going into a mental institution, I believe in the 60s. The movie Girl Interrupted is a comfort watch of mine. I watch it at least once a year with Winona Ryder, Angelina Jolie, and Brittany Murphy, among many other great actresses. I think Jared Leto's in there as well. The quote is this: "Crazy isn't being broken or swallowing a dark secret. Crazy is just you or me amplified." And I must have heard that quote or read it in the book when I was like 12 years old. And it just hit me. It really hit me, even at that young age. I think so many of us, I think it's part of the human condition that we struggle with how much of ourselves to show in this life, how much of ourselves to amplify, how much of ourselves to let out wild and free while we are, engaging in society with the eyes of others on us. And so this notion of Crazy isn't being broken or swallowing a dark secret. It's just you or me amplified. And it really makes me think about and challenge you and myself to think about how much of ourselves we let out to play. How much of ourselves we let out to play. It's no surprise that the top regret of the dying is I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life others expected of me. Whew, that's the top regret of the dying. People at the end of their lives on their deathbed are sitting there and regretting, God, I wish I had been more myself and not been the person that everybody else wanted me to be or everyone else expected me to be. I wish I had done what I wanted to do instead of what I thought everybody else wanted me to do or society wanted to do. We think that if we do what we want to do and if we let our true personality out and our true wildness and craziness out, that will be labeled as crazy, that will stick out too far, that will be rejected. But at the end of our lives, the biggest regret people have is that we let that wild animal of ourselves locked in the cage and that we were too afraid, too reticent, too fearful to amplify our true selves. Be crazy. Be willing to be seen as crazy so that you can let that wild animal of yourself out to play, so that you can figure out who the hell you are in this iteration of you in this lifetime, so that you can get to the end of your life and be like, man, whew, we had a time. I explored the edges of my existence. And I'm not talking about skydiving or traveling or quitting your job. Sure, great, do all those things. What I'm talking about is having the courage to be yourself, having the courage to laugh your true laugh, having the courage to wear what you want to wear, having the courage to pursue the eccentric hobbies that you want to, having the courage to say what deep down you really want to say, having the courage to be seen in whatever capacity, that ever expanding capacity. I feel like it's an onion, like, oh, I was willing to be seen here, and then we can move the goalposts. And it's like this continual self exposure, not necessarily even to other people. It's less about being exposed to others. To me, it's more about being exposed to myself so that I get the privilege and the pleasure and the wild adventure of figuring out who I am and what the continually expanding edges of myself are. Now, the cool thing that happened when I reached out to Susanna Kaysen to ask her if I could use this quote that is so special to me in my book is she replied to me by accident when she was trying to reply to someone else. So I'm not going to share the details exactly of the email of what she wrote because I promised that I would keep it in confidence. Someone had written into her who had also had an experience in a mental institution, who was grappling with the fear of whether or not to write about that experience and saying, oh my God, will I be rejected? Should I write about this? It feels so edgy. I'm worried about how it will be received. I didn't see the original email, but this is what I'm imagining that this person had written in. And Susanna Kaysen replied back to this person with a long, very detailed email about what to do in that instance. But for whatever reason, it got mistakenly sent to me. I will read you one excerpt from that email that I think is really important and beautiful. So when she was replying back to that person, she said, you need to feel that what you have to tell the world is more important than what the world thinks of you. Some people will like what you write and some people won't. That's the way things are. If you aren't prepared to deal with that, don't write it, or write it, but don't publish it. Woo! And when I was researching for this episode, I looked that back up in my email inbox. It's more timely, prescient, topical, zeitgeist than ever when with the internet and so many of us struggling to figure out how much of ourselves should we reveal online? It's age old. I mean, it is topical and zeitgeist, but it's also not. One of the core aspects of being an artist is how much of myself should I reveal in my art? Should I be making my art to be accepted by others, or should I be making the art that's begging to come out of me? And according to Susanna here, you need to feel that what you have to tell the world is more important than what the world thinks of you. This reminds me, maybe this quote is what inspired me, because shortly after I received this email, I was pitching to publishers during this time, trying to get an agent or a publisher for my book, You Might Die Tomorrow. And I got so many no's. I mean, no after no after no after no. And one of the yeses that I got was from a pretty big publisher. It wasn't like a Penguin Random House. It wasn't of that, like biggest publishers in the world, but it was a pretty big, well-known publisher that has published even like Eckhart Tolle. And they were like, "We love your manuscript. We love your idea. Yes, but you have to change the title of your book. It can't be You Might Die Tomorrow." This is like a kind of a new agey publisher, so they probably wanted something more soft and inspiring, and I just couldn't do it. I had been building this art project, this movement called You Might Die Tomorrow for so many years at this point. I was just passionate that I felt like even if the person who passes it by in the bookstore doesn't read it, doesn't crack one page, if they are to even see the cover of my book, it will accomplish the entire purpose of my book, which is to expose people to a reminder of their mortality so that they can gain clarity, perspective, and presence. And the truth is, you don't have to read my book. Just by being exposed to the cover, the title, You Might Die Tomorrow, it is possible that that will then evoke within you the same response that reading the whole book would. I definitely recommend reading the whole book because I think it is very inspiring and it will give you a whole new perspective. Like once you read my book and you hear and you really understand what it means to live like you might die tomorrow, it will echo in your mind at the most perfect moments in your life and help you make really hard decisions and see things and blast through overthinking. Okay, sales pitch for my book over. But truly, like, you don't even have to, because I rejected that publisher and I just felt in my bones, I have to publish it under this title. And thank you to Susanna Kaysen for accidentally sending me that email to remind me that you need to feel what you have to tell the world is more important than what the world thinks of you. So thank you to Mr. Stephen King. Thank you to Ms. Susanna Kaysen. There's also the amazing Carsi Blanton story. If you don't know who Carsi Blanton is, let me tell you about Carsi Blanton. Carsi Blanton is an activist. Carsi Blanton is an amazingly talented musician. I found out about her and her work through her song Smoke Alarm. Her song Smoke Alarm that she wrote many years ago has the best freaking lyrics. I wanted to include the lyrics in my book, so I reached out to Carsi and asked her if I could. She replied back right away and said, "Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking." And that was the thing also that I got in every one of these quote approvals. Everybody was like, "Thanks for your integrity. Thanks for asking." Because there's so much ripping off going on in the era of the internet that I think people just really appreciate it. Just getting a personal email asking for the approval. Carsi was no exception. So the song Smoke Alarm, I included the lyrics in my book, and then in my audiobook, I'm such a crazy person. Well, it's not that crazy, but I sang in my audiobook. Go follow Carsi on YouTube, on social media, on Spotify, because she is one of the most courageous, badass activists out there. Carsi embodies that quote that I just gave you from Susanna Kaysen so amazingly. She knows what needs to be said, and she does not let her fear of how it will be received prevent her from writing songs, speaking her truth, and standing up for what she believes in. And Carsi, I respect you and look up to you so, so, so much. to everyone who's listened to my audiobook uh, and heard me sing on it. Thank you. I apologize to your ears. But, I did want to create a fun audiobook. Again, I can't emphasize enough how Carsi is not just a musician, she is an activist and she is out there writing songs like Bob Dylan-esque and beyond about the injustices that's going out in the world. And she gets up on stage and she speaks the truth and is just like such a voice of our modern times. So CarsiBlanton, Carsi Blanton. There is a quote that I wanted to use that at the very last minute, I was like, kept trying to get permission to use this quote. I had reached out to Charles Bukowski's publisher, reached out on Instagram, reached out to all of these different people associated with Charles Bukowski. Nobody got back to me. So I was like just about to go to press. And then I remembered that that quote was in there. And I was like, oh shit, the last thing I need is a copyright lawsuit on this book. So right before I went to press, I had to delete my Charles Bukowski quote. I don't even remember what quote it was now. And I'm probably not allowed to say it on this show, anyways, right now. Can't win them all. Stephen King might reply to you, but somebody else won't. And so then you just have to suck it up and be like, all right, we can't use that one. The thing is with any art that you do is you do it and it's like your thing and you put all of this into it. And then it kind of takes on a life of its own. So this book has been living its badass sovereign life now for 5 years. It's actually been 5 years this month that the book has been out. And I'm so grateful to say that it has sold thousands of copies, still sells copies almost every single day, which totally blows my freaking mind for a debut book, debut author to be still selling copies years later and to be having sold copies in the thousands all around the world is just like so humbling and such an honor. If you haven't read my book, You Might Die Tomorrow, I just ended my exclusive agreement with Audible and I put my audiobook everywhere. So you can now listen through your library apps, you can listen on Spotify, you can listen through Findaway Voices. It's like everywhere on the internet now for a much lower price or free. So if you haven't gotten a chance to read my book, you can still get print copies everywhere online, but you can also listen to the audiobook for free or low cost all around the internet. I'm super excited that hopefully the audiobook will now get into more hearts and more ears. It's just such a special part of me. And now it's a special thing for everyone who's given it 1-star reviews, the many people who have given it 3 and 4-star reviews, and then many people that have given it 5-star reviews and for whom it's been a life-changing piece of work. So that's it, y'all. Thanks to Stephen King. Thanks to Susanna Kaysen. Thanks to all the artists out there, including you, who create art even when it's scary, who say what needs to be said even when it's hard, and who live your life and amplify yourself for you and for your life experience, and who live alive just for the hell of it. Just for the fact that we get this one life in this body with this set of experiences and circumstances and gifts. And why not live it all out, y'all? Thank you for watching and listening to Be Alive with Kate Manzer. Look at this face. We have pajamas here, and she is asking you from the bottom of her heart to please subscribe to Be Alive with Kate Manzer and also to leave a review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you are listening. I mean, look at this. Look at her. She is the sweetest thing that you ever saw. And she says, please like, please subscribe, please comment for pajamas. Love you all. We both thank you, Pajamas and I, for listening and for being here with us today. It's a gorgeous day to be alive, y'all.